Well, I asked, where's the beef? Let's call this for what this is. Oh my God! They are so hopelessly woke. How dare you? That is the intellectual capital of the left today. Give me a break. You are now watching the Daily Roundup.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Daily Roundup on this, a Tuesday, October 31st, 2023. Happy Halloween! I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you about my co-host. You know what, folks? This is her favorite time of year because she gets to dress up as transgendered Bret Hart. She's the she-devil with a sword. She's the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is Sheila Gunn Reid. Sheila, that's your Bret Hart costume this year?
No, you know what? I will send you a picture of my Bret Hart costume later. It's just a little too immodest. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
Like, it's a Bret Hart singlet. I have the glasses. I have the hair. It's just that I wanted to get like a flesh-toned shirt to wear underneath it because, like...
Oh, mercy.
Exactly. It's a men's singlet, right? So it goes very low. And as you know, I love me a good layer. I don't like my arms even showing. I don't wear V-necks. So I suppose I could have like worn the wig and the glasses, and you definitely would have known who I was. But I'll send you a picture once I am able to put something on underneath it. But
well,
yeah,
don't worry about that, Sheila.
It's a little too risky.
No, I think speaking for our audience, they kind of like the jiggle with the giggle. You know what I'm talking about?
I neither
anyway.
giggle nor jiggle.
You know what? We should talk about this because there is an increasing war on Halloween, Sheila.
Yes.
You know, it's funny. We'll get into the meat and potatoes, but the New Jersey School Board District, they're banning costumes. And the reason for the ban, and we'll get into it later, is inclusivity. So let's be inclusive by being exclusive. Let's stop what's popular with more than, I think last year, 88% of the kids dressed up, to bend the knee to the 12% of who didn't. It makes no sense. But before we get into all that happy Halloween or unhappy Halloween stuff, or... some schools are calling it Black and Orange Day, Sheila, which I don't get. No. I am paying honor to our two favorite fictional serial killers, Jason Voorhees of Camp Crystal Lake, and of course, Freddy Krueger. I got this sweater. This is an actual sweater. Somebody was wearing this, and then I guess they donated it to Value Village because they probably got a lot of comments. Hey, I love your Freddy Krueger sweater. No, it's just a striped sweater. So they got rid of it. But anyhow.
You know, with the amount of dead people stuff at Value Village, that place is probably really, really haunted. It must be. Anyway, we'll tell everybody what we're doing here. I'm full of regrets. I have my Camp Crystal Lake t-shirt that I should be wearing right now. But I had an appointment at 9 and I was racing to get back in. Anyways, it's just a big...
And Sheila, if I may remind you again, where is my Camp Crystal Lake sweatshirt? You teased me a year ago that was going to be a gift. It's a gorgeous sweatshirt. I know you have one. I can't remember what all the merit badges are.
It's canoeing, and it's like pulling people in out of a canoe, axe throwing, and it was like camping, and it's like him like killing campers. Yeah, I gave it to Guillaume, who never gave it to you, and then the problem is you're in big galoot sizing, and so most stores only carry up to XL or 2XL, but I think you probably need a 2XL tall. I'll keep looking. I promise I'll get it for you. I promise. Just I'm waiting on you to shrink maybe a little bit.
Well, I got a message for Guillaume. Look at your license plate there in Quebec. Je me souviens. I remember. I remember, Guillaume. That's my sweatshirt. I want it back. Okay.
Give him his sweatshirt. I mean, Guillaume is not much bigger than me. He'd probably swim in it, by the way. Let's So I don't think he stole it on purpose. I think it's probably been misplaced somewhere. But anyway, I should tell everybody what we're doing here today, because there's a ton of stuff on the board today, especially out of the prairies here, where we seem to be leading the way on fighting with Justin Trudeau. This is the Rebel News Daily Roundup. It's frequently hosted by my friend David Menzies. My boss, Ezra Levant, has been hosting it off and on for about the last 3 weeks. And it's where we get to talk about the news of the day and the comings and goings around the world, completely unscripted, as you'll see. And as I'm sure you've already noticed, it gives us a chance to interact with each other, but it also gives us a chance to interact with you at home. So wherever you're watching us, if you're watching us on YouTube or on Rumble, there's always a lively live chat going. If you're watching us, however, on Rumble or on Odyssey, you can support the work that we do out of the goodness of your heart through a paid chat. On Rumble, it's called a Rumble Rant. On Odyssey, it's called a Hyper Chat. And in doing so, if you leave a chat that's above the $5 US minimum, we are obligating ourselves to read it on air. But don't let that be a barrier for participation, because quite frequently we read the chats that fall under that. And sometimes we even read the free chats. And I always, well, not always, but I frequently go back and read the chats sometimes just to see what you think about the crazy things that I've said unscripted and off the cuff. For example, some of you are pro Buffy St. Marie and some of you are anti Buffy St. Marie. And I am pro Buffy St. Marie scandal. I cannot get enough of it. That woman has been wearing a Halloween costume for 50 years, and CBC is going to have to make its mind up about whether or not you can self-identify as something or not. And so far, they seem to be against people self-identifying as Native, but perfectly fine with people self-identifying as women. So I can't wait to see what shakes out of that crazy little tree.
Oh, Buffy St. Marie. Sheila, I thought you said Busty St. Marie. I thought
No,
Lemieux
that's
was back
also
in the
fake.
news again.
I don't know if you're following the Buffy St. Marie scandal, but
Oh, yes.
ooh, boy, Beverly Santa Maria. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I hope she has to give back her Order of Canada. She can get her face off a stamp. I don't know. It's just very exciting because she was very anti-conservative for a very long time. And she was, it's fun to see the left eat their own.
But, you know, Sheila, on that topic, please explain to me why, let's just say, Buffy St. Marie is not Native.
She's
with
not.
The current...
And we can solve this real fast with the DNA swab. 23andMe will get to the bottom of this right away because Heidi Santa Maria, her niece, is the real whistleblower here.
But here's the thing, Sheila. Why is it okay for a male to identify as a female and vice versa? Why is it, as we saw with that so-called Melody Weishart, a 50-year-old male can identify as a 13-year-old girl, and the swimming people, oh, they're just fine with that, no problem. But why is the line in the sand race? Why is it with Buffy St. Marie, I'm a Native? Oh, no, that's inappropriate. Rachel Dolezal in the U.S., remember, years ago, and it wasn't to make a mockery out of black people. She was in love with black culture, and she identified as a black woman, and she got crucified. But my question is, with the wokeism, you can identify as the opposite sex, you can identify as a young person.
Look at her bad makeup.
But why not race? Why not the trifecta? I don't get it. Please educate me.
Look, I'm with you on this, David. This is, as the Buffy St. Marie scandal plays out, for those of you who don't know, she's not Native. She's been lying about it since the 60s. She is just a basic Italian-American. She's not even Canadian. Italian-American, born to a nice middle-class family, the Santa Marias. And ultimately, the Santa Marias began going by Saint Marie because their name was a little bit too ethnic Italian sounding. That's how Italian the lady was. CBC, in an act of journalism, I know, wait for it. We'll have to take this day off next year. They pulled her birth certificate from the Wakefield, Massachusetts town clerk. She's not adopted. She never was adopted. She was not 60s scooped. She said she was 60s scooped in her 20s, by the way. Everything you know about her is a lie. She continues to lie. And if she wants to prove me wrong, she could very easily just 23andMe this and we would be done with it. But she's just going on and on. But like you, at least I can say I'm ideologically sound on this.
Yep.
Because I don't think that men can self-identify as women. Biology and lived experience means something in the same way that I don't think Beverly Santa Maria, I don't think Bev can just all of a sudden be Buffy St. Marie from Pie Pot First Nation because she feels like it, because it's a feeling. I don't think that's true. It's the other side of this debate that is ideologically on shaky ground. You and me, David, we're fine.
No, but that's the thing, Sheila. I hearken back to the age-old saying, I think, therefore I am. But that's been modified to today to I identify, therefore
I feel, therefore
I am.
Yeah.
And
at least before we were thinking. Now we're just feeling.
But Sheila, I just want to know the rules. You can identify as the opposite sex. You can identify as a teenage girl, even though you're a 50-year-old man. But for some reason, race is a third rail, even for the uber woke left. Well, I say why? Why are you happy with false sex, false age, but not false race? This is their problem. And the fact that they're eating each other over this works fine by me, Sheila.
Yeah, I look at Beverly Santa Maria now, and I'm like, if you washed off that ridiculous Undertaker makeup that you're wearing, it's like funeral home makeup. If you washed that off, took those feathers out of your hair, her and I could be sisters. We're both just run-of-the-mill white ladies. She's been playing a game for a very long time because she knew it would further her career. And if she wants to prove me wrong, Bev, you could easily take a DNA test. There's lots of your relatives now who are coming out of the woodwork to say that she bullied us into silence. Anyways, pardon me on my Buffy St. Marie obsession over the last couple of days. It's been wild since Friday. I've watched so many of her old interviews now in like a whole new light where she's like, we have to decolonize ourselves. I'm like, you got that right, sister. Anyway, let's move on to the news of the day. Let's go to... Speaking of decolonizing ourselves, the West is attempting to decolonize ourselves from Justin Trudeau's carbon tax. We've got Scott Moe, Premier of Saskatchewan, just a great guy in so far as fighting with the feds and standing up for parents' rights. By the way, he's one step further than Alberta on that issue. He said that I think it was last week, Justin Trudeau provided an exemption on home heating for families in one part of the country because it would cause inflationary problems on utilities. Yeah, we know. But the thing is, you're doing that to every family in Canada. And so Scott Moe is taking umbrage with this because apparently if you continue to vote Liberal, you'll get breaks. But if you vote Conservative, you don't get breaks. So let's hear from Scott Moe.
Last week, Prime Minister Trudeau announced a 3-year exemption on the carbon tax for home heating oil. This exemption is primarily for families in Atlantic Canada where heating oil is used in 40% of their homes. In making this announcement, the Prime Minister has effectively destroyed 2 of the myths that he has created about the carbon tax. First is that the carbon tax is affordable because most Canadians receive more back in rebates than they pay in carbon tax. If that were true, why would he need to remove it as an affordability measure on home heating oil for families in Atlantic Canada? And the second myth is this, that it's a tax that's being applied fairly in all parts of the country based on a set rate per ton of greenhouse gas emissions. Home heating oil is used primarily in one part of the country, and it has higher greenhouse gas emissions than other heat sources, like natural gas, that is used in most Saskatchewan homes. So the Prime Minister chose to make life more affordable for families in one part of the country while leaving Saskatchewan families out in the cold. How is that fair to families here in our province, where affordability is also an issue, where winters are cold, and where most of us use natural gas to stay warm? And now a federal minister has said if people out west want a carbon tax exemption, we should elect more Liberals. This is no way to run a country. As Premier, I cannot accept the federal government giving an affordability break to people in one part of Canada, but not here. So today, I am calling on the federal government to offer the same carbon tax exemption to Saskatchewan families by extending it to all forms of home heating, not just heating oil. It's only fair to other Saskatchewan and Canadian families. Hopefully that exemption will be provided soon. But if not, effective January the 1st, Sask Energy will stop collecting and submitting the carbon tax on natural gas, effectively providing Saskatchewan residents with the very same exemption that the federal government is giving heating oil in Atlantic Canada. The federal government may say that's illegal and that you simply cannot choose to collect and pay your taxes. In most cases, I would agree with that. But it's the federal government that has created two classes of taxpayer by providing an exemption for heating oil. An exemption that really only applies in one part of the country and effectively excludes Saskatchewan. As Premier, it's my job to ensure Saskatchewan residents are treated fairly and equally with our fellow Canadians in other parts of the country, and that's what I am doing today. Of course, the real solution would be for the federal government to scrap the entire carbon tax on everyone and everything. But until that happens, it needs to at least be applied fairly across Canada. And that should mean no carbon tax on using natural gas to heat your home this winter in Saskatchewan.
Well, Sheila, the question I offer to you is what happened to Blackface's famous statement, a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian, or does that just apply to those Canadians that, they kind of get caught up in messy terrorist groups and we got to bring them home and repatriate them and give them an 8-figure check for hurt feelings in certain cases? I mean, I don't understand. Well, I do understand because behind the scenes, we know this is politically driven, that in Atlantic Canada, the last poll, and this is shocking, I don't think I've seen something so dramatic in such a short period of time, Sheila. Liberals in Atlantic Canada plunging by 6 points, Conservatives up by more than 10 points in that same time frame. And going back to 2015, when Blackface had his first election, we saw Atlantic Canada light up red from coast to coast. And that's a power base. I think Blackface knows this is part of the equation of getting a majority government, if there's any hope in hell of that happening in the next election. And therefore, these are special Canadians in Atlantic Canada, whereas, we kind of feel your pain. Well, not really if you live in the West. Sarah. And one last thing. Whatever happened to the climate crisis, the climate emergency, the climate catastrophe, Sheila? I thought that was the rationale for these carbon taxes. There was a bigger thing at play here in terms of affordability issues for Canadians, or even the Blackface Liberals getting reelected. It was namely saving the planet. Somewhere Greta Thunberg weeps.
Very dramatic, David. Thank you. Well, and also, haven't the Liberals been spouting their Ponzi scheme nonsense about the carbon tax to sell it to Canadians? Oh, you'll get way more back than what you pay. Huh. That sounds like a Ponzi scheme, don't you think? You'll get way more back than what you pitch in. And then, the Liberals say that, adding taxes to literally everything that you buy, do, travel to, move, wear, eat, flick on, turn off, if you add a cost to all of those things, that you won't feel it. Well, you obviously are feeling it and not getting more back than what you pay, except if you're in Atlantic Canada, though, only the Liberals care about you then. And over to your point that this used to be, they also told us that it was about saving the environment. Well, why are they taxing natural gas, which is clean burning, and not taxing fuel oil, which is like adjacent to bunker C for how not clean burning it is. That's getting a tax cut, but clean burning natural gas is still getting hammered. It's obviously not about the environment, and you obviously are not getting more back in return than what you were paying. So what is this about except a tax grab?
Again, it is politics, Sheila. It is the blackface Liberals trying to shore up their popularity in Atlantic Canada. But I think it's going to backfire because all the other Canadians, coast to coast to coast, are saying, where is our quid pro quo here? And, also, in fairness, we have to point out that this is a politically astute move by Scott Moe, especially given there are many analysts saying what he's doing is illegal. He cannot refuse to remit these taxes to Ottawa.
Right.
But who cares? He is positioning himself as a champion for his people. He's going to bat for Saskatchewan residents who, like all Canadians, I would argue, or at least the vast majority, are suffering with inflation, high interest rates, mortgages going up, you name it. And so even if this is a fool's errand, if it goes to court or what have you, at least Scott Moe said, well, at least I tried. And he is trying, and he's given a hard deadline, January 1st. But, shame on the Liberals for dividing Canadians like this. And one last thing, and I want to get your opinion on this, Sheila Gunn-Reid. Jagmeet Singh, on the way to headquarters today, I'm listening to his soundbite, and he is saying this selective discount for certain Canadians, he said it shows, quote, just how out of touch Justin Trudeau is. And yes, in the department of even a broken clock is correct twice a day. You're absolutely right, Mr. Singh. But what does it say about a member of the opposition who recognizes that the Prime Minister is completely out of touch, his words, and then props up this out-of-touch Prime Minister when push comes to shove? This act is getting so tired, Sheila, and to think we have 2 years potentially of living through this crap, I don't know how we're going to make it.
I used to say, when are the NDP going to come to their senses and get rid of Jagmeet Singh and get a grown-up leader who might be a reasonable opposition on the left to Justin Trudeau, akin to Thomas Mulcair? But then I watched the NDP convention, and I don't know if you saw my video about that. And I was like, oh, these people are absolutely insane. And so that's why they haven't noticed that their leader is bankrupting their party. Financially and, way, Sheila, and intellectually.
If I can interject, for those who didn't see your video, what Sheila's referring to, folks, is that they were less concerned about policy and more concerned about gender identification, which pronouns. Is their way of saying, if you are a straight, able-bodied white male, could you just please stifle yourself? And
not only that, if you were a straight white male and you wanted to talk, they could shut you up by somebody raising a yellow card and then just kicking you off the mic, because they prioritized gender and all those the social justice hierarchy as far as speakers go. So that's why the NDP aren't. At first, I always wondered, like, there have to be some reasonable people there. And then I watched the entire convention and I was like, no, Sheila, they've been completely infected with lunatics. Now, there's the yellow card.
Well, when did a soccer game break out? That's what I want to say.
They had trigger rooms. Like, if you got triggered, you could go into this sanitized room to just sort of get your tears, dry your tears off. I mean, it was just hypochondriacs and crazy people. That's the only people who were there. Scott Moe, I'm not getting back to Scott Moe. I'm not one for crown corporations, right? Like, I don't like them. I don't think that government should be doing something that the private sector can do. TELUS was AGT, Alberta Government Telephones. But Sask Energy is a crown corporation. So Scott Moe, and that's the distributor for natural gas in the province. So Scott Moe has leverage here that other provinces like Alberta, they don't have, because he is like, he runs the retailer of natural gas. So he can choose not to remit. It's not like he's pleading with companies like ATCO or EPCOR here in Alberta who distribute the natural gas, or I don't know if Northwestern Utilities even exists anymore, but you'd have to plead with the private sector to go along with your tax strike. Scott Moe can just do this like this in an act of government. And so while I'm normally very, very, very against crown corporations, this is one of those times where it plays to the benefit of Saskatchewan. And Scott Moe actually is doing more to stand up for NDP voters in Saskatchewan than Jagmeet Singh ever did, because Jagmeet Singh is saying that Justin Trudeau is out of touch, not because he's unfairly treating the West in his application of the carbon tax. Jagmeet Singh is saying that Justin Trudeau is out of touch because he thinks the carbon tax should be higher on everybody, because he thinks normal people care about the carbon tax when really normal people don't care. They're just told that the TV thinks that they should care about the carbon tax. This is a good time to just go into this Tiff Macklin clip here, because it's no joke that the carbon tax affects inflation more than the Liberals originally stated, because it's just not on electricity and home heating and vehicle fuel. It's factored into the cost of everything, because everything in this country has to be grown or moved or turned on. So let's go to that Tiff Macklin clip, please.
One question is, because the carbon tax is going up, right, over time. So one question is, how much are the increases in the carbon tax adding to inflation each year? And that number is about 0.15 percentage points of inflation. And that's the direct impact on those three components.
Perfect, thank you.
The second question you asked me was, what would be the effect if the carbon tax, what would be the effect on inflation if the carbon tax was eliminated? And that would create a one-time drop in inflation of 0.6 percentage points.
Okay.
So that would last 1 year. And since you can only eliminate it once, the next year it would have no effect on inflation.
For sure. And hopefully next year inflation won't be as a big a concern as it is this year. But just to reiterate what you said there, so it would be 60 basis points or 0.6%, which currently the inflation rate is at 3.8%. So that equates to more than 10, I think almost 15%, if I can do the math quickly, in a drop in inflation. So, is that would be a sizable drop in inflation. It would make your job, to quote you, it would be helpful, if I can. Would that be correct?
It's only going to affect inflation for 1 year.
Yeah, but as you said, Mr. Macklin, hopefully, and as you forecasted, inflation probably, according to your predictions, won't be as big an issue as it will for a year right now. So if we can get a year's relief out of that, that's Canadians who will be able to keep their houses, that's Canadians who will be able to enter the mortgage bracket, that's Canadians who will be able to feed themselves because of a 10% reduction in inflation. Isn't that so, Mr. Macklin?
It'll be down 0.6.
So, Sheila, if I may, I've been saying this for months now, ever since the economy went off the rails and so many Canadians suffering. And by the way, look at the stats. We go to pre-COVID food bank use, 2019 versus 2023. Do you know it's gone up by 78%? That is absolutely shocking. There are people who used to be donors to the food bank who are now recipients in just 4 short years. And I've always said, a proper policy move and a political win for the black-faced Liberals would be to say, you know what? We realize there's a climate crisis, a climate emergency. We want to save the planet. Not that I believe any of that garbage, Sheila. But right now is not the time for this carbon tax. So we are going to temporarily remove it. And just like everything blackface touches, it's the opposite of the Midas effect. It doesn't turn to gold, it turns to shinola. What happens? He chooses a certain region and a certain postal code for certain Canadians to give that rebate to. In other words, he completely screws it up. You know, if this government, Sheila, simply did nothing since they got elected, they would be 100 times better than what they are with their policies that they've enabled.
Yeah, and just so people know, Tiff Macklem, I think his name is Richard Tiffany Macklem. So he decided to go by Tiff. Okay. Anyway, he's the governor of the Bank of Canada. So this is the guy. And he is saying that, what is it, 15% inflation? We would see a 15% inflationary relief by eliminating the carbon tax. And so for the Liberals to say that you don't feel it is absolutely insane. And giving a tax break to Eastern Canada is them acknowledging that it is causing inflationary pressures. They just don't care about the West, which I think is a good segue into this video from Danielle Smith, because she is right there with Scott Moe in getting ready to fight with the feds. She has fewer tools in her arsenal with regard to going on a carbon tax strike. But if I know my premier, and I do a little bit, I think she's going to get real creative real fast. So let's go to this video of Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith. Yesterday was the first day back in session, and she's ready to go and square off with the feds on carbon tax issues.
About an hour ago, Scott Moe announced that Saskatchewan Sask Energy will stop collecting the carbon tax on natural gas as of January 1st. Will Alberta follow suit?
Well, that's the benefit of having a Crown Corporation. Sask Energy is a wholly owned Crown Corporation of the Saskatchewan government, so I believe he has the latitude to do that. We are a private market, and so we don't have that possibility. But that's the reason why the federal government has to create tax fairness. They have to put a reprieve on the carbon tax on all home heating in all provinces, on all sources of heating. Otherwise, you're going to see these kinds of actions taken by the provinces who can, and we're all Canadian. We're all suffering from the same acceleration in the costs, the same pressures during winter. And so I hope that the Prime Minister does the right thing, and if he was prepared to give an exemption on one type of home heating oil that benefited one region of the country, he should give it to everyone.
Will you work with private energy providers to stop collecting the carbon tax?
You know what? Moe acknowledged that what he was doing probably wasn't in keeping with the law. He acknowledged that. I watched his 3-minute video, and he said he wouldn't normally feel like he was pressed to do that because we do have a Supreme Court decision that does give the federal government the power to set a federal carbon price. And it's the federal government, I think, who's not living up to the spirit of what they said to do. And I wouldn't ask our private sector operators to be in a position where I'm asking them to be out of compliance with the law. I would just prefer for the federal government to do the right thing and give a reprieve across the board in all provinces, all fuel types for the winter. And then our preference would be to get rid of the retail carbon tax altogether and start working with us in industry to reduce emissions in a different way and transition to different fuels, because it's not the choice of Alberta citizens. I mean, that's the only option they really have is home heating by natural gas. It's just getting increasingly punitive. So I would hope that the Prime Minister would do the right thing and acknowledge that, rather than allow for these pockets of inequality to crop up all over the country.
Well, Sheila, the problem is blackface isn't going to do the right thing because Alberta is a wasteland in terms of liberal opportunity. There's no way they're getting they might be wiped out completely in Alberta in the next election. So doing the right thing versus what's politically expedient, that's where the rubber hits the road. And I'm afraid for Premier Smith, blackface will not do the right thing. Your thoughts?
No, of course not. And it's weird because you look at the federal equalization program, and the reason rich provinces have to pay into it, so they tell me, is so that we have the same level of services all across the country. But what it really does is disincentivize certain portions of the country from developing their natural resources. So they don't have to do the politically difficult thing of fracking or whatever, like what we do here in Alberta. But so they tell me out of one side of their mouth that we have to have this equalization program so that we're all equal. But then you have the feds coming in and then treating certain provinces as unequal or better. None of it makes any sense. But again, at least I get to be ideologically pure on this issue, and the left never seems to be. It's just they have these weird situational ethics that they apply in different circumstances based on how they feel about the person they're applying their ethics to.
Oh, but Sheila, if I may, forget about the left. We have Scott Moe in Saskatchewan, Danielle Smith in Alberta, conservative premiers. They're saying and doing the right things, in my opinion. And gee, there's some insignificant little province that's run by a conservative. Not doing it. Oh, yeah, that's right. Doug Ford of Ontario.
40% of the Canadian population lives there.
Exactly. So he doesn't, there's some kind of bromance going on with blackface there. We've seen that for the last couple of years now. And he's not taking the charge. And I remember him running on the promise, and it was like the promise was kept, but they failed at the court level, to have the carbon tax deemed unconstitutional. And suddenly he's not hopping aboard this bandwagon saying for the people of Ontario, you know what, we'd like our rebates back too, because we're suffering so much. My suggestion, Sheila, to Premier Ford, take off your shirt, put on a goalie mask like I'm wearing, channel the character, the Humongous from The Road Warrior. Remember that? I'm going to paraphrase his great speech. There's been too much pain, too much suffering. Just walk away from the carbon tax. Walk away, and I will prop you up. Right? That's all he's got to say. He won't even do that. And actually, I take that back. Keep the shirt on. Unlike the Humongous, keep the shirt on, Dougie.
You know, there are ways. I was just thinking, there are ways that provinces without crown corporations like Scott Moe could withhold their carbon tax, particularly rich ones like Alberta, Ontario. You just take the difference out of your equalization payment.
Yep.
And then it's not, well, I don't know if it's probably still be illegal. And Danielle Smith is doing her best to follow the law because she takes the ethical high ground by saying the feds aren't following the law. And so she cannot do the same. And, good for Scott Moe. That's an act of civil disobedience I'm cheering for him to break the law. Good for Scott Moe,
and shame on Doug Fraud yet again. Sheila, we got a break for an ad. We're overdue. So we'll pick up some other stories on the other side.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in downtown Toronto. And I got to tell you, folks, next March 23rd to 30th to be precise, we are going on a Caribbean cruise. Can you imagine that? And a lot of your favorite Rebels will be there, such as Sheila Gunn Reeds. We got Alexa Lavoie, the big boss man himself. Of course, he'll be there. Ezra Levant. And how about this? How about this for the cherry on the sundae? Tamara Leach, Canada's #1 freedom fighter. She'll be on that boat too. And look at the itinerary. We're going to be going to Half Moon Cay in the Bahamas, and then we're going to jazz it up in Ocho Rios, Jamaica, and then there's Georgetown in the Cayman Islands, and finally Cozumel, Mexico. Can you imagine that? If you want more details in terms of getting aboard the ship, go to rebelnewscruise.com. That's rebelnewscruise.com. All the details are there, the departure dates, the costs, and you know what? This is not just a fun-filled getaway. This is a way in which Rebel News raises some revenue. Unlike the mainstream media, we don't receive a nickel of government funding, nor would we take it if ever offered. So it's win-win. Enjoy yourself in the Caribbean and Mexico, and also support your favorite online news channel. So that's rebelnewscruise.com. I hope to see you aboard.
Do you want to start feeling like your pre-COVID self again? You're not alone. The wellness company's Spike Support Formula is an all-natural supplement to help people do just that. It was created by cardiologist Peter McCullough and his expert team of doctors to help the people experiencing effects from COVID and the you-know-what.
Go to twc.health/rebel today.
I'm Dr. Peter McCullough. After years, I'm finally coming to Canada.
I'm a practicing internist and cardiologist. I've trained in epidemiology.
The FDA wanted to block the Pfizer dossier for 55 years.
50% of the lives at that time could have been saved. We were at about 250,000 deaths.
Red Deer, Thursday, November 9th. Get tickets at canadiansfortruth.ca. See you Thursday, November 9th.
You know, Sheila Gunn Reid, I don't know about you, but I can hardly wait for that Rebel News cruise. I've never been on a cruise. I'm so excited. As a matter of fact, Sheila, I've already submitted my yellow Speedo to the dry cleaners just to get it nice and shiny for that cruise. So what do you think about that?
I need one of those NDP yellow cards right now. Just stop. Oh boy, let's go to the Israel-Gaza conflict. Something that came up today. We were talking about it a little bit internally at the company and sort of what our position is on this, and I'll give you mine. So the article from CTV News, Israeli ministry, quote, concept paper, proposes transferring Gaza civilians to Egypt's Sinai, with Canada as a possible final destination. The Israeli government has drafted a wartime proposal to transfer the Gaza Strip's 2.3 million people to Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, drawing condemnation from Palestinians and worsening tensions with Cairo. Netanyahu's office said it's not really, like, it's a thought bubble. It's not really something that they can do, and it's not something that they can do, of course, without Egypt's cooperation, but it is a solution to the civilian problem in Gaza. And heck, they might even have running water and food if they ended up in Egypt, as opposed to under the control of Hamas, who uses aid dollars to pay terrorists and who digs up water pipes to build missiles, and then goes to the Israelis and says, why did you stop sending us all the free stuff? as though we would ever, in the before times, like in World War II, have sent internet, water, and electricity to the citizens of Dresden when it was being carpet bombed. Anyways, Netanyahu's office downplayed the report compiled by the intelligence ministry as a hypothetical exercise, but it's I don't know, it's making people mad. Look, I am not for the killing of civilians, but those civilian deaths hang squarely around the neck of Hamas like a millstone, because they started this. I think Gazan refugees would do much better if they stayed within the region in one of the other Arab countries, like Egypt, like Jordan. And for humanitarian purposes, I wouldn't even be all that bothered by saying, or by hearing the Canadian government saying, we're giving a bunch of money to Jordan to keep these people in the region, where they will hit the ground running, better integration, they speak the language, same religion, same culture, often quite literally the same culture. Most Palestinians are Jordanian. But I'm not sure if this is a great idea to bring 2.3 million unvetted civilians who have gone to Hamas indoctrination schools into Canada, particularly in the climate that is unfolding in Canadian streets.
Sheila, not only is it not a great idea, it might be the worst possible idea I've ever heard. We have a housing crisis, and you can tell, go to any major city, even small towns, there are tent cities everywhere. We have more immigrants coming into this country, whether it's legal or illegal, than we've had since 1998. And you're proposing 2.3 million more people to house. Where's the money coming from? I hate to be a Debbie Downer here to all this humanitarianism, but I mean, we're already, if you look at our deficit and our debt, and of course, the political reluctance to, sell liquefied natural gas to, say, Germany and Japan, that would account for 2/3 of $1 trillion with a T, folks, coming into Canadian coffers. But, Blackface says there's no business case there. But there's some kind of a case to bring in more people that need help. This is absolutely outrageous. And one last point I want to make. You rightly stated Hamas started this. But Hamas is continuing this. And by that I mean, in addition to the more than 1,400 dead from October 7th and the more than 4,200 who were wounded, there is more than 200 people that are being held hostage. And before we talk about a ceasefire, Step one is release the hostages. I mean, this is madness to say, I guess we'll just have to hang them out to dry. And you know what? To show you the moral authority Israel has, they will fight for their citizens. We go back to, remember Gilad Shalit, the IDF soldier? He was kidnapped for more than 5 years. And after negotiations, what happened? Gilad Shalit was traded, and what did the Palestinians get? 1,027 prisoners, some of them really bad hombres doing time in Israeli prison. But that was how much Israel cared about one single soul. And so, as I say, Sheila, until those hostages are freed, everything is off the table. And I don't know why that doesn't come up in all these demonstrations, especially the pro-Hamas demonstrations, when they want a ceasefire, they want reparations, you name it. It never comes up that, you know what, you have something like, I think the precise number is 222 people being held against their will, including teenagers, children, babies, and even a 9-month-old baby. Until you free those people in good health, everything is off the table.
And look, Canada's going to give a bunch of money to the region. That's what we do, apparently. But I would much rather see the money that Justin Trudeau just returned to UNRWA. That's the UN agency devoted to Palestinian refugees, who some of them are like 3rd and 4th generation refugees. That's not quite how it works. If you're born there now, you're not a refugee. They're not generations of refugees. And we've seen these UN refugee camps. I'm like, that's just a Palestinian town. Why? But if we are going to give a bunch of money to UNRWA, which has been credibly linked to being, I forget what the Americans called it, problematic. These UN schools allow Hamas to put weapons caches underneath so that they can use the little children as human shields. I would rather we take that UNRWA money and give it to the King of Jordan, to King Abdullah II, who is pretty Western, all things considered, and say to him, here, you take this money, please take in some Palestinian refugees, since many of them were originally Jordanian anyway. I'd rather do it that way than giving it to the corrupt United Nations. I've been to a UN refugee camp in northern Iraq, where Christian charities have to deliver food aid to the Christians because the UN refugee camps are so corrupt. So they're delivering food aid to the Christians inside the UN refugee camps because the UN is so corrupt. They were not providing aid and diapers and other resources to the Christians who are languishing in these camps. So if we're going to give aid to the region, take it out of the hands of the UN, Give it directly to King Abdullah too. That's what I would like. That's my solution for the civilian problem in the region.
I totally endorse your solution, Sheila, because it's simply this: whether you're sending money there or tangible items like fuel, what happens is the Hamas terrorists just take it. So money that was going to go to a hospital for medicine, for food, for water, it goes into Hamas getting more rockets to fire at Israel. So that is not a solution at all. I like what you're proposing. And by the way, I notice we do have a little video here from our super producer, Efren Monsanto. He's been working so hard. Special shout out to Efren, because he's even been working on weekends, and you've never seen a guy work like this. I mean, folks, Efren Monsanto makes the Energizer Bunny look like a slug.
Non-stop.
Okay?
Non-stop. And he's always given her, and he always talks like he's speeded up to 1.5. Like if you're watching a video and you speed it up to get through it, that's how Efron talks, because he doesn't have a low gear. Like he's always in Jackrabbit. He's never in Turtle. And he works night and day after he does all the things that he does at the company. Then he goes and does journalism, because there's so many things happening in and around Toronto these days with these pro-Hamas protests. He went yesterday and covered pro-Palestinian protesters. Don't worry, they didn't honk, so they won't get their bank accounts.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah. Okay. Miss Bank Account Caesar herself, by the way, pro-Hamas protesters shut down Chrystia Freeland's offices, chanting for a ceasefire, while, as David rightly points out, there are still hostages being held. And they were blocking Efron from trying to film them. I guess when you're doing something illegal, you don't want somebody recording the video evidence of it. And the most atrocious thing, I think, is probably, well, besides the fact that who's being charged with mischief over this? They did more damage here than the entire convoy in Ottawa did. But there was a Jewish community center right across the street. So let's show this January 6th style insurrection of Chrystia Freeland's office.
Free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! Viva, viva Palestina! Viva, viva Palestina! Viva, viva Intifada! Viva, viva Intifada! Viva, viva Palestina! Viva, viva Palestina! Viva, viva Intifada! Viva, viva Intifada! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, 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 free.
Just mindless chanting. Just mindless. From the river to the sea. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah, which sounds like a catchy slogan, which it is, but the perverse subtext, folks, is that's code for wiping Israel off the map. They're talking about the Jordan River, the Mediterranean Ocean. Geez, what landmass is in between there? Oh, yeah, it's this little state called Israel. But at least, Sheila, we have to give them props. They didn't quite go all Sydney, Australia during this demonstration and chant gas the Jews. I don't think there's any nuance there, is there?
Well, they're leaving their options open. That's what they're doing, because they're saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. What they mean is free of Jews. But they're not saying how they're going to do it. So maybe they'll gas them. Maybe they'll just shoot them, burn them alive, behead them, take them as sex slaves. All the things that may happen to the Jews. But they just don't want to pin themselves down on any one tactic, I think.
So, riddle me this. Did Fraulein Freeland come out to greet this beautiful sample of diversity the other day?
If I know the Liberals, they probably wanted to trot these people out and give them a round of applause like they did to that other Nazi.
Yeah. And on the flip side, any talk about freezing their bank accounts, arresting them, putting them in solitary a la Tamara Leach, any of that? Or am I failing to see the nuance here, Sheila, why this is okay, but the Patriots in Ottawa from 2 years ago, that was somehow offside?
I want to know why they are not applying the bank account seizing part of this to these people, because the provisions in the Emergencies Act that allow for financial institutions to seize or freeze your bank account and your assets is that they are trying to stop the funnel of money to terrorism. So what they're trying to, it's basically the terrorism financier provision of this, so that you cannot raise money for terrorists. But these people are providing at least moral support and maybe even financial support to a known terrorist organization named Hamas. Like a named terrorist organization, not like with the liberals' definition of terrorism, which means horn honking and street parties and opposing Justin Trudeau, but actual terrorism. And nobody seems to care. You know, like I'm sure you could organize money for these pro-Hamas protests on GoFundMe and nobody would bat an eye.
You're so right, Sheila. One of the dumbest MPs in the blackface cabinet, and I'm even including Seamus O'Regan in that motley crew, is Yara Sachs of York Centre. And she infamously stated during the trucker convoy that honking twice is an acronym. Her words, Sheila. I mean, this woman doesn't even know what an acronym means, but nevertheless, what she was trying to say, folks, is that honk honk is sonic code for Heil Hitler. And maybe at this particular pro-Hamas demonstration, we didn't hear any horn honking, but I can tell you at others I've covered, and when Efren goes out to the Gaza Plaza, it's honk honk galore. There's a whole lot of Heil Hitlering. Where is Yara Sachs? And you know what's even more disgusting is the fact that Yara Sachs happens to be of the Jewish faith, and you have people calling for the extermination of Jews, and that is not motivation for this grotesque MP to get off her hiney and denounce this. Unbelievable, Sheila.
You know, I think this is one of my big fears about the overuse of the word Nazi. It's coming to fruition, right? Yeah. So when you throw around the word Nazi, as the left tends to do, to mean anybody to the right of Mao and anybody with whom you disagree, you take the sting out of the word. And by taking the sting out of the word, you also take the sting out of the definition. And that was something that really struck me when Efron and I went to Auschwitz together. When we were in Poland covering the climate change conference, we had half a day, and I thought, we're like a train ride away. We must go. And when I was there, I was like, the misery and the agony and the human suffering and the evil is still thick in the air like fog. You can just feel it. It's like you can breathe it in. And I was really struck with how heinous it is for people to throw around the word Nazi willy-nilly like that, because it is a knife. That word is a knife that must always remain sharp. And the more you use it on things that aren't Nazis, the duller it gets, until you really don't know when to use it, even when it's appropriate. And that's what we're seeing here. These people are calling for the extermination of Jews. They are running pogroms in Russia right now, protesting Jewish community centers. These are the actions of a Nazi mob. But when you've used that word to mean just regular old conservatives, how do you use it now?
No. Yep. They have debased the language, Sheila. And, you know, when they use words too, like genocide and apartheid, none of which is happening in Israel. If your movement is based on a lie, if your protest or demonstration is based on a lie, what's really going on here, given that Israel is neither an apartheid or a genocidal state? Well, to me, Sheila, it's none other than good old-fashioned anti-Semitism. That's what we're seeing here. And
age-old.
It's unbelievable.
Age-old.
You know, Sheila, we got to take an ad break, and when we get back, I want to quickly talk about what I referred to at the beginning of the show, how back in 2008, when the Toronto District School Board declared war on Halloween, well, it turns out, unfortunately, they were trendsetters because there's jurisdictions all over North America, to use one of your favorite terms I've heard from you, Sheila, they've turned into fun burglars, eliminating Halloween. And I just want our viewers to know the 6 reasons why the Toronto District School Board has a big problem with Halloween. You're not going to believe it, folks. But in the meantime, let's take an ad break.
Come on out November 25th. It's all aboard the Freedom Train in Niagara-on-the-Lake. You can check Rebel News for updates and also the Freedom Passport site.
Tamara Leach, who led the Truckers Convoy, will be sharing the stage with some of the finest international recording artists, like the Chops Horns from New York City, who's played with Alicia Keys, Stevie Wonder, the Rolling Stones, and many more. Plus New World Sun, just off a European tour, and the legendary R&B master, Leroy Emanuel. Get on the Freedom Train with Tamara Leach. Saturday, November 25th at Niagara-on-the-Lake Central Community Center, 680 York Road. Get your tickets today at freedompassport.ca. The Freedom Train is coming. Know your rights. Know your freedoms.
Yeah, so Sheila, very quickly, as I mentioned, the New Jersey schools are banning Halloween, and it's so egregious that even the New Jersey governor, Phil Murphy, who is a Democrat, he said, quote, seriously, we can't let kids celebrate Halloween? Give me a break. Now, when you have a Democrat saying that, you know you've really jumped the shark. So I'll very quickly, because I know we're running out of time, get to the 6 reasons. Some 15 years ago, the Toronto District School Board said Halloween isn't as much fun as you think. Number 1, quote, Halloween is a religious day of significance for Wiccans and therefore should be treated respectfully, end quote. Sheila,
it's a Catholic holiday. It's a Catholic holiday. It's All Hallows Eve. Settle down, witches.
And in addition to what you said, I have spoken to Wiccans, and they have all told me 100%. They have no problem whatsoever with Halloween. They think it's fun and they're not disrespected.
Secular.
Yeah. So there you go. Number 2, listen to this one. Quote, peer and social media consumer pressures target all children and their families as consumers of costumes, makeup, food products, etc. Many students and their families can feel this socioeconomic marginalization keenly, end quote. Gee, that sounds like Marxism, wouldn't you say, Sheila?
They're giving out free candy. They are giving out free candy to little kids. Yep. What a better time. If you're too poor for candy, go out and get some. Just knock on some doors. Someone's going to give you some candy.
Unbelievable. It gets worse. Number 3. Quote, the images and icons associated with consumer-orientated Halloween can come into conflict with some students and their families' religious beliefs, end quote. Sheila, the only thing I can think of is that, are they implying that if you dress up as a zombie that you are mocking the resurrection of Jesus Christ? Other than that, I got nothing when it comes to the religious angle.
Not all Christians believe as I do, particularly when it comes to my embrace of the spooky season. And you know what they do? They don't get prickly about it. They don't cancel. This is a solution in search of a problem.
Correct.
If Christians don't want their kids to participate, you know what they do? They just don't participate. It's like when they try to yoga at school, and I'm like, not today, Satan. My girls will be stretching, thank you very much, but we're not doing yoga poses. We're not uptight about it. They're trying to fix something nobody has complained about.
100%, and that is true, by the way. Number 4, the quote, the food products that are marketed heavily during the Halloween period can come into conflict with students and their families' dietary habits, end quote. They just don't eat it.
I don't eat candy. I don't eat candy. I don't even eat potatoes, but I'm not picketing the McDonald's to tell them to take fries off the menu. Just don't eat it. Who cares?
I'm still off McDonald's since that.
I believe it.
That Tel
Kosher
Aviv
McDonald's.
airport situation, but that's a story for another time. Number 5. Quote, some students have had firsthand traumatic experiences of violence that make talking about death, ghosts, etc. extremely alienating, end quote. Sheila, what's your... I've got lots to say on that, but what do you have to say?
Are they telling me these little kids are being haunted by something? And so we can't have Halloween? Because they have ghosts in their house?
Sheila, this is the best one. I saved this for last. Number 6, quote, many recently arrived students in our schools share no background, cultural knowledge of trick-or-treating or the commercialization of death as fun, end quote. Sheila, the irony couldn't be more perverse. Yes, you're right. Halloween is celebrated in only a handful of countries, but you're the Toronto District School Board. You employ teachers. Your role is to educate your students. So you say, hey, welcome to Canada. You know, every October 31st, we have this thing called Halloween. Let me tell you about it. You educate them. You don't maintain ignorance. Why? Like you said, Sheila, this is a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. And again, it proves my point that when it comes to the educrats who are in charge of our children's education, I have never met such stupid people in all my life.
David, if there are new Canadians who need a crash course in Halloween, I will gladly give that seminar. I will run a clinic the last week of October. Yeah. And you don't have to look scary. My older daughter, who normally goes as a zombie, like what she does is she does like the zombie face makeup and the zombie wounds and then dresses normally or as a farmer, which is also her normal. So she's like zombie farmer, zombie basketball player, whatever. That's just her thing. This year she went as a sloth. And so it doesn't have to be scary to have fun at Halloween. Like you see those like cutie patootie little witches. They're so cute, the little girls that go out as witches. Yeah, there are new Canadians who are like, ooh, what is this Halloween thing that's disorienting, as though they're like cave people who couldn't possibly learn. That's what a great way to invite people into your culture is through the cultural experience of spooky season. It's for everybody.
It's amazing. And if you or I or any of our viewers, if we moved to India and we went, what's this Diwali thing?
I'm there.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this. Can all you people, all 1 point whatever billion of you, stop celebrating this? No, I would be condemned as a rabble rouser. So yeah, teachers, teach your children well, please, especially when it comes to this cherished time of year called Halloween. I wonder if it'll exist still in our lifetime, Sheila, given all the fun burglars out there. Anyways, we have to get to our super chats and then we have to sign off.
Wait, we got one more story. One more story. I wish I had found it last week. I would have deployed you to deal with this because you at the company love Halloween as much as I do. Pringle Creek, Whitby, Ontario. Last week, Whitby, Ontario. Community members have launched a petition to bring back annual Halloween parade held by local elementary school that they say was shuttered over inclusivity concerns. The parade was held annually at Pringle Creek Public School for years, but was put on hold in 2020 due to the pandemic and hasn't been revived since. Remember all the, people didn't give out treats because of the pandemic. They're worried they're going to get cooties from little kids banging on their door. And they were putting those shooting candy out the window, and down tubes to little kids. It's just, what a messed up time to be alive. But anyways, they've canceled this Halloween parade. The Durham District School Board, of course, did not confirm
for life, evidently, but go on.
I know. One of the worst school boards in the country did not confirm why the event is no longer being held in a statement provided to CTV News Toronto. However, at least one parent told CTV News Toronto she was told by a member of the school's administration that it would no longer take place because not everyone celebrates Halloween.
Okay, and on that point, Sheila, here is the ultimate perverse irony, especially when it comes to Durham District School Board. If you go there, folks, you'll see a permanent pride flag on display. You will see a permanent pride crosswalk on display. This is all about reaching out, especially to the trans students who are 0.0000001% of the student body. And think of this, Sheila. For you to think it's Halloween 365 days a year, a la a boy can say he's a girl and a girl can pretend she's a boy. Oh, that's beautiful. That's inclusivity. That's diversity and equity and all that other jazz. But for one day a year, for kids to dress up as their favorite superhero or monster or ghoul, whatever. Oh, no, no, no. Because of diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's offside? Can you explain this to me, Sheila?
I'm A-tipping this right now. That's what I'm doing out of the corner of my eye.
You're multitasking
I'm like,
again.
I want to know who made this decision. I bet you zero people complained. Maybe one curmudgeon, and that was it. And so they canceled this super fun thing for all these little kids in the community for inclusivity. So banning something from everybody for inclusivity. I don't think that word means what they think it means. But anyways, I'm going to find out what's what in the Durham Regional School Board, you absolute fun burglars. I'm going to go as a, you know what, David, we should go as their administration next year for Halloween because the spooky, evil.
Oh, well,
canceling
Sheila,
Halloween.
If that's the case, you're going to have to gain about 150 pounds and dye your hair blue. So do you really want to make that commitment?
I can wear a big girl suit and dye my hair blue. I have to be careful about the language I use. Let's wrap up this show here. Yes. So we're way past due. Annalisa, 1964. Our friend Annalisa. She is the unofficial president of the unofficial David Menzies fan club. Population 1, I believe.
I'll take it. Better
like
than
I
none.
always say, she's got David Menzies in the bloodstream like an AstraZeneca clot. She just can't shake him. He's just swimming around in there like a spike protein. And you know what? He's landed in her heart. Look at this. $20 from Annalisa.
Wow, thank you.
Sorry I don't get on the live feed as much, but work keeps getting in my way. Anyway, Sheila, beautiful as always, and get ready. To my sweet Menzies, you look absolutely, Annalisa, yummy-licious and cutie pie-licious.
Wow, Sheila, that's the best compliment ever because look at the context. I'm wearing a mask, and even the lovable one's vibes carry out on the airwaves. Annalisa, you are so kind. I wish you were closer. I'd put something in your Halloween bag if you came to Casa Menzoid trick-or-treating. You got that right.
I'm not reading anything into that very creepy sounding statement.
Okay. Oh, super producer Olivia just mentioned the message came in before it aired. So maybe she didn't know I was wearing a mask. Oh, well.
She's psychic. We've got a couple of free chats. Let this be a lesson to all of you. Sometimes your free chats are interesting. So Plum Duff 69 writes, you need more ads with Lincoln J. Yeah, I'm pro Lincoln J. He's a great videographer, a good little journalist, and works very, very hard. He's always up for an adventure. And so, yeah, more ads with Lincoln J, for sure. Annalisa, 1964, also writes, yes, Menzies in a Speedo. She's...
Oh, Sheila, there's a punchline just dangling over home plate, but I dare
There's
not
lots
say
dangling over home plate. If you're interested, Annalisa, there is a video of David Menzies in a cat suit, in a leotard. If you need to get your fix, and this, I'm not sure, this might go either way for you. You might like him more, or maybe you're like, no. Anyways, there's a video of David Menzies dressed as a cat the time he checked himself into the Toronto Cat Show to prove a point about whether or not you can identify as just about anything. And anyway, there you go.
No. Oh, please, I scare easy.
You know what? It's the tan lines for me. And the bottom cut out of your cat mask for some reason.
That is disturbing, I have to tell you, to see these human lips in a cat mask. I mean, people were...
eyes.
I think the vibe of the day, Sheila, was revulsion.
What's that Stephen King movie where the people turn into cats? Oh, my God.
Cat people.
Well, I don't know. But anyways. Are you happy now, Annalisa? Did you get what you came for?
Trick or treat.
I think we all did. Trick indeed. Okay, AMT 60, $5. David, have you seen ads to get a rebate off a new electric heat pump for Ontario people? I phoned them and they primarily use electricity and will use gas at below -15. I told him that electricity costs more. David Menzies knows how to get his hands on a good green rebate, doesn't he?
You know, I have indeed, my friend, seen those ads, but, you know, I haven't done any research on this. Lady Menzoid was quick to point out that heat pumps simply don't work once the temperature gets to a certain degree. Do you know anything about that, Sheila?
No, I have natural gas and I have wood heating. So I don't know. I'm keeping her old school. I would get back on coal if I could. You know what? You got a coal furnace at home, Sheila at rebelnews.com. I'll get back on coal. I want none of this. I'm checked right out. And the last one is Snowy Roof 5. I disagree with you both. As a Christian, why would I celebrate the dark side? Well, you know, I went over this last year on last year's show, why Halloween is actually, it has deep roots in the Catholic Church. And anyway, I could do it all again, but we're 18 minutes over time. Maybe I'll do it next time I'm on the show with David. But,
I would just say this, that for children, you know, and childhood, it's like baked bread, isn't it, Sheila? It's a perishable commodity. It comes so quickly and it ends so abruptly. And it's such a fun time. They're not reading into the dark side. But with all due respect, if you want nothing to do with Halloween, I respect that. Just don't participate. No one's forcing you to. But please don't advocate to school boards and others to take this great fun time a year away from well, typically the vast majority of children that do participate this. And Sheila, that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, I'll just quickly bring this up, and it's from the Vatican News Service. So just so you know. Well, some people have connected Halloween to earlier pagan celebrations of the New Year. Halloween has actual significant Catholic roots. The name itself comes from All Hallows Eve, that is the vigil of All Saints' Day, when Catholics remember those who have gone before us to enter our heavenly home. Immediately afterwards, on November 2nd, the Church commemorates all the faithful departed but still detained in purgatory, and we pray suffrage for them. In memory of those who have gone before us naturally leads to thoughts of mortality, and the liturgical focus on the end times during this period of the church year adds to the atmosphere of gloom. So anyways, as long as we maintain as Catholics, again, there are other Christians who believe otherwise. But anyways, Halloween is rooted in Catholic tradition. The modern focus on the eerie and mysterious also has a Catholic aspect. When we think of Halloween, we often think of ghosts and goblins and ghoulish faces. But even these in the Catholic tradition are supposed to be reminders of death and of the last things. So for us to celebrate good, we should always acknowledge the evil. And, remember, we all die. Memento mori, right?
You know what, Sheila, I'm so sorry to say this, but showing that Halloween has Catholic roots might be doing this day a disservice. You know how
it's going to get canceled for sure.
Hates Catholicism. I mean, you can burn down a Catholic church. Not only is there no outrage, but maybe there's some people thinking of giving the arsonist an Order of Canada. So I don't know about that one, but
yeah. It's like it explains sugar skulls in Mexican iconography, right? Like it's just to remember that you are but a mortal creature and death comes at you fast. And by the way, there are bad things out there.
Is anyone campaigning against, if you go to Mexico in the first week in November, the Day of the Dead? No, that's a cherished holiday there. But why does Halloween get all the hate? And the Mexican holiday, which is similar to Halloween, I guess that's diversity. Sheila, I just don't understand the rules these days. I just don't.
Anyway, here's the thing. Celebrate Halloween, don't celebrate Halloween. I don't care.
Exactly.
But leave the choice up to everybody. You don't have to believe the same as me about anything. Halloween, Christmas, whatever. Let's all do our own thing. We don't need some fun-burgling government bureaucrat to tell you that little kids can't go out trick-or-treating. If you don't want to celebrate Halloween, don't. I'm gonna lay in my yard in a horse mask and scare the daylights out of little kids when they come get candy from me. And I've got good candy, little people, if you know where I live. Come by.
Good for you, Sheila Gunreid. That's why I love you. One day I'm going to go to Northern Alberta during Halloween, and I'll show up trick-or-treating just to see how big that candy is that you're handing out.
We'll do the Monster Mash, big guy. Okay, I think we're all done.
All right, then. Well, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to this daily edition of the live stream, and a special big thank you to all those who gave contributions. It's how we keep the lights on. And, of course, to Ashrin and Olivia, our super producers, and the lovely Sheila Gunreid, who really disappointed me by not showing up.
I'm sorry. I ran out of time. It was too immodest. It was just, I couldn't do it.
Okay. In any event, as Sheila works on a not so immodest Bret Hart costume for Halloween 2024, I bid you all adieu. We'll have 2 more Rebels here tomorrow for the live stream. And in the meantime, as always, stay safe and stay sane.
If there's a way that the Sovereignty Act can be deployed to follow suit with the statute.
Well, the Supreme Court has already rendered a judgment on this. The Supreme Court in 2021 said that the federal government does have the right to set a floor price. Now, I guess the only thing that we could do, and I have asked for us to take a look at this, if the federal government isn't living up to the commitment of setting a single price across the country for everyone, then perhaps they're not living up to the spirit of what the court determined.